The geopolitical landscape of West Africa is currently fraught with peril. A significant flashpoint involves Ivory Coast and its northern neighbor Burkina Faso. Relations between these two nations have soured considerably. This deterioration presents a complex challenge. It threatens regional stability in profound ways. The international community is watching these developments with growing apprehension. This situation did not emerge overnight. It is the culmination of months, even years, of simmering discontent and specific, pointed accusations. The stakes are undeniably high for peace and security across the Sahel. Burkina Faso has made repeated serious allegations against Ivory Coast. The Burkinabe military junta, led by Captain Ibrahim Traoré, is central to these claims. They accuse Ivory Coast of actively working to destabilize their regime. Specifically, Ouagadougou points to Abidjan as a base for dissidents. These individuals are allegedly plotting against Burkina Faso's current leadership. Such charges are grave. They fundamentally undermine any prospect of normal diplomatic ties. The most recent accusations in April and May 2025 are particularly alarming for observers. The Burkinabe authorities recently announced the foiling of a major coup plot. This alleged plot was scheduled for April 16, 2025. Its aim was purportedly to overthrow Captain Traoré. Burkina Faso's government explicitly implicated Ivory Coast in this scheme. They claim plotters, including former Burkinabe military officers, operated from Ivorian soil. These named officers are Major Joanny Compaoré and Lieutenant Abdrahmani Barry. The charge suggests a deep level of mistrust and open hostility. These are not isolated incidents. Captain Traoré has consistently voiced these concerns. Since July 2024, he has publicly stated that Ivory Coast hosts a center of operations designed to undermine his government. He links several alleged coup attempts against his rule to Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara. This pattern of accusations creates a narrative of persistent external interference. It further complicates an already volatile regional security environment. Ivory Coast, for its part, has remained largely silent on these specific recent allegations, adding another layer of uncertainty. The lack of clear refutation or engagement from Abidjan is notable. The diplomatic relationship between Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso shows clear signs of collapse. This is not merely rhetorical sparring. Concrete actions have demonstrated the depth of the schism. For instance, ambassadors have not been in place for a significant period. Ivory Coast's ambassador to Burkina Faso concluded his mandate in 2021. Burkina Faso's ambassador to Ivory Coast finished his term in 2022. Neither country has appointed replacements since then. This diplomatic vacuum speaks volumes about the state of their bilateral ties. The situation escalated dramatically in early October 2024. Burkina Faso took the drastic step of recalling its entire diplomatic staff from Abidjan. Only a few administrative officials were left behind. This move signaled a near-total breakdown in formal communication channels. Such actions are typically reserved for moments of extreme tension. They indicate that routine diplomatic engagement has become untenable. The implications for resolving disputes peacefully are quite severe. Without ambassadors, misunderstandings can quickly escalate into larger crises. Beyond the empty embassies, tensions are also manifest along their shared border. The past year, particularly since November 2024, has seen a worrying increase in border incidents. These are not minor disagreements. They have involved the detention of security forces from both sides. Such direct confrontations between armed personnel are inherently dangerous. They carry the risk of unintended escalation at any moment. The potential for a small incident to ignite a larger conflict is very real. This adds a military dimension to the already strained political relations. One particularly significant border incident occurred in March 2024. The situation was so tense that it reportedly required an Ivorian military helicopter to de-escalate matters. This highlights the fragility of peace along the frontier. These incidents suggest a lack of clear communication and coordination between border security units. They also reflect the broader atmosphere of suspicion and hostility. Meanwhile, Burkina Faso itself is grappling with a dire internal security crisis. Approximately 40% of its territory is under the control of jihadist militants. This internal strife makes external tensions even more dangerous. A major geopolitical shift is underway in the Sahel, further complicating Ivory Coast's position. Burkina Faso, along with neighboring Mali and Niger, has embarked on a new strategic path. These three nations, all led by military juntas, have formed an alliance. This alliance explicitly breaks away from the established West African bloc, ECOWAS. It also marks a decisive pivot away from traditional Western partners, most notably France. This realignment is reshaping regional power dynamics. It introduces new actors and new uncertainties. The most significant aspect of this geopolitical reorientation is the embrace of Russia. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have all actively courted Moscow. They have strengthened military and political ties with Russia. This move comes at the expense of long-standing relationships with Paris and other Western capitals. Russian influence in the Sahel is visibly growing. This includes the reported presence of Russian military advisors and equipment. This strategic pivot is viewed with considerable concern by countries like Ivory Coast, which maintain closer ties to the West. This shift towards Russia has direct implications for Ivory Coast's foreign policy. Abidjan has traditionally aligned itself with Western powers. It has been a key partner for France and the United States in the region. The emergence of a pro-Russian bloc on its northern border presents a strategic challenge. It could force Ivory Coast to recalibrate its own alliances. It may also lead to increased pressure from both Western and Russian actors. The region is becoming a new theater for great power competition. Ivory Coast finds itself increasingly near the center of this contest. The security implications of Burkina Faso's Russian alliance are also significant. Russia's approach to counterterrorism in Africa differs markedly from Western strategies. There are concerns that increased Russian involvement could exacerbate instability. It might also lead to a more fragmented and less coordinated regional security response. For Ivory Coast, which shares a long and porous border with Burkina Faso, the spillover effects of this new security dynamic are a primary worry. The presence of Russian-backed forces so close could alter the security calculus for Abidjan considerably. The confluence of these external pressures inevitably raises questions about Ivory Coast's internal stability. The persistent accusations from Burkina Faso are not just diplomatic noise. They have the potential to inflame existing tensions within Ivory Coast itself. If Ouagadougou successfully portrays Abidjan as a destabilizing force, it could resonate with certain domestic groups. The alleged presence of Burkinabe dissidents and plotters on Ivorian soil, if true or widely believed, could also point to internal factions that might seek to exploit regional instability for their own ends. Ivory Coast is no stranger to political instability. The nation has a history of political crises and civil wars. The memories of these past conflicts are still relatively fresh. While the country has enjoyed a period of relative calm and economic growth under President Ouattara, the foundations of its stability are being tested. The current regional climate, characterized by coups and shifting alliances, creates a fertile ground for uncertainty. Monitoring the loyalty of the Ivorian military and the coherence of its political elite is now more crucial than ever. The critical question, therefore, is the likelihood of a coup or significant revolt in Ivory Coast. Directly assessing this risk is challenging. There are no overt signs of an imminent internal collapse. However, the sustained external pressure from Burkina Faso, coupled with its Russian alignment, creates an environment of heightened vulnerability. If regional tensions escalate further, or if there are more substantiated claims of Ivorian involvement in destabilizing Burkina Faso, the internal political consensus in Ivory Coast could fracture. This is a scenario that cannot be dismissed lightly. Ultimately, the risk of a coup in Ivory Coast, while not immediate, is elevated by these complex geopolitical dynamics. The country's resilience will depend on strong national institutions. It will also require astute diplomacy to navigate the treacherous regional waters. The Ouattara government faces a delicate balancing act. It must manage its relationship with an increasingly hostile northern neighbor. It must also adapt to the changing geopolitical chessboard where Russia is now a significant player. The coming months will be critical in determining Ivory Coast's path forward amidst these storms.